Hello and welcome to today's math lesson. Today we are going to be talking about inequalities, okay? Inequalities. So we've been solving equations that would be something like 2x minus 3 equals 11. And we've been solving these. So these have the symbol of an equal sign. What we're going to be talking about in this unit are inequalities. So we're not going to have an equal sign so that we get down to just one number. So we'd have 2x, add that 3 and we get 14, divide by 2. So x is 7. We have one answer that will work for this particular equation, and it happens to be a 7. We're going to be talking about inequalities, and the inequality here is this symbol, and it means less than and an open circle. So if we had something like x is less than 3, what I mean by an open circle is on the number line, we have 0 and we have 3. So is 3 a solution? Well, in this case, it's not, because we're talking about anything that is smaller than 3. So we go up to 3 by indicating that we have an open circle, and then we are going to shade everything to the left because this says any number less than 3. So any number less than 3 would be going this way. Now, in the next one, it actually says this line underneath it, so it has less than with the line underneath it. That is read less than or equal to. So if we had x is greater than or equal, whoops, I need to be the less than sign, sorry, getting ahead of myself here. So the less than or equal to 5, so if I have my number line, and I put 0 on it, this time we're saying we're going to include 5, so we're going to have a closed circle. We are going to include 5. 5 is a solution. We don't just go up to it, we actually include it. Okay, then our greater than symbol. So if we have x is greater than 7, so then we're going to have a open circle at 7 and then go bigger, greater than. And then if x is greater than or equal to -2, so on our number line, we always like to put the 0. And notice I'm not putting all of the tick marks out. That's fine, just as long as you have 0 and your number. And because it says equal to, that means I'm going to include the -2 as part of my solution. And it says any number greater than, so I go to the right. All right, let's try a few different things here. So graph the following statement. 5 and under you eat free. Okay, so I know I'm going to have a number line. So what are we talking about here? 5-year-olds. So if you are 5, do you eat free? Or do you have to say I'm 4? So when you go in and they say, well, how old are you? And you say, I'm 5. Do you get to eat free? Or are you going to have to pay? Okay, how old are you? I'm 4. Okay, so 4 for sure, because 4 is under 5. But when it says 5 and under, that means that we are going to include this. So we're going to have this here, and we're going to shade left. Now, because we're talking about eating for free in 5-year-olds, we know we're not going to use the -1, so we would actually stop right here at 0. So you can indicate that by just doing in solid, because you're certainly not going to use the -1, -2, -3 that fits because of this. All right, question 2. Over 15, you can enter the open gym. So sometimes they have age groups and they don't want 10-year-olds in an open gym with 16 and 17-year-olds. So in this particular gym, they're going to do a cutoff at 15. So over 15, you can enter the gym. So if you walk in and say, hey, I'm 15, do you have to go with the younger kids or the older kids? Well, this is over 15, not 15 and older. It's over 15. So if you go in and say you're 15, you're going to go with the younger kids. So this one's going to be an open circle, and then we're going to shade to the right. All right, let's try some problems by adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. So these are going to be basically the same as your equal sign. So some of you are going to want to draw this line down. Now we're going to focus on that number that's by the W. And because that says +3, we're going to do the opposite operation. So we're going to subtract 3. So W is less than or equal to 1. Now, it is also my understanding that you guys did these last year, so I'm going to fly through some of these. If you need to pause the video and come back and review, you certainly can. All right, so we've got our 1 and our 0. Because we have the line underneath, I'm going to have a closed circle. And now that says any number greater than goes to the right. All right, this one says -5, so I'm going to put my line in here. Because that says -5, the opposite of a -5 is going to be to add 5. So we have x is less than or equal to a -20. Whoops, I wrote 15. So that was only supposed to be a 5. So -20 plus 5 is a -15. All right, so I have my 0, I have my -15. Because it has this line underneath it, I am going to have a closed circle at 15. And it says any number less than. Notice the letters first, and when the letters first, this symbol actually points the way I want it to. So look at this one, the letters first, any number, and then I have my symbol. Do you see how it's pointing to the right? And when I graphed it, it goes to the right. All right, in this one, the whole point of me saying that was because if you look at this one, do you see where the P is on the right? So we're going to solve it exactly the same. Because that says plus 6, we're going to subtract 6. So 12 minus 6 is 6. Now we have our symbol and we have P. Now some of you are going to be just fine and be able to graph it from here. I have my 0, I have my 6. Because I don't have a line underneath it, I have an open circle. When you read these, you always read from the letter, not left to right, but you read from the letter. And if you read this from the letter, it says any number greater than 6. Now, I made a point in the last two that we like to write the letter first. So I would get in the habit of putting the letter first. So if you're going to flip things, then you're going to have to flip your symbol. So P, and I still need the big end towards the P, just like here, I have the bigger end towards P, and then your 6. Now, when you look at it in the letters first, it says any number greater than 6, and it goes to the right. Now, you could have read it from here also. This also reads any number greater than 6. But more kids have a tendency to get it correct when the letter is first. So if you need to, please flip that so that you're getting it correct. All right, here's a multiplication one. This one says 3 times x. The opposite of times is divide. So we're going to divide both sides by 3. So x is greater than 9. So at 9, I'm going to have my open circle, and it's greater than, so I go to the right. All right, number 5. Okay, this is the first time this one's happened in here. So this is a big rule, okay? You guys know how to solve this. And you know that this says -8 times x. The opposite of times is divide. So I'm going to divide by a -8. So when you divide by a -8, I get x. 40 divided by -8 is a -5. Now, what happens? We have a big rule when we're dealing with inequalities. When you divide or multiply by a negative number, flip your sign. So this is a huge rule, okay? When you divide or multiply by a negative number, not adding, not subtracting, not when you get a negative answer, only when your action is to divide or multiply by a negative, then you're going to flip your sign. So we divided by a -8, so we need to flip this sign. So it becomes greater than or equal to. Now we graph it exactly the same how we've done the other ones. And at -5, we're going to have a closed circle. And this says any number greater than -5. Okay? And something easy just to prove that to you. I think you guys all agree that 2 is smaller than 10. Okay? So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to multiply by 4. And if I multiply by 4, I get 8 is less than 40. Well, that's still a true statement. 8 is less than 40. Okay, but now let's do what I just said. Let's divide by a negative. So I'm going to divide by -2. I'm going to divide by -2. And what I just said is if you divide or multiply by a negative, you have to flip your sign. So 8 divided by a -2 is -4. 40 divided by -2 is a -20. Now, let's think on the number line. If we're on the number line, we have 0, -4, -20. Which one's smaller? What's the smaller number here, -20 or -40? Okay, well, if we put this symbol in here like this, it's saying -20 is bigger. Well, we know it's not bigger because it's further left on the number line. So this one is smaller. So we need to flip the sign in order for this to stay true. So we have this rule. Anytime you divide or multiply by a negative, flip your sign. All right, I think I only have one or maybe two problems left. All right, so this one says x divided by 4. So the opposite of divide is multiply. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 4. So I get -28. These 4's cancel, and we have x. Now we have to decide, do we flip the sign or keep the sign? Well, what was my action? My action was multiply by a +4, so there is no flipping. Okay, but now I realize, hey, my number's not on the left side, so I might mess up graphing, so I'm going to reorganize this. And because I'm going to flip x on the side, I need to flip my sign so that it still says the same thing. So at -28, I'm going to have an open circle, and this says any number greater than. Now you can read it from here. Any number is greater than, and you'll be totally fine. All right, this is the last one here. So what we have in front is this fraction, and some of you might remember what we do here. When we have this fraction 2/3, this is when you flip and multiply. Okay, so we're going to flip. So instead of it being 2/3, we flip that to be 3/2. So I'm going to times by 3/2. I'm going to times by 3/2. Okay, so my 2's cancel, my 3's cancel, and so I just have x. All right, looks like I have 45 divided by 2, and what is 45 divided by 2 is going to be 22.5. Oh, again, I don't have my letter first, so I'm going to rewrite it. So I have x. Then make sure you have the little n pointing towards x, so I have to flip that sign. All right, now when we graph this, I still need my 0, and I have my 22.5. Because I don't have the line underneath it, it's just an open circle, and it's any number less than, so make sure we shade to the left. All right, so we are done, and it is homework time. So good luck on your homework for adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing inequalities.